Welcome back, punters, to another episode of the Lads Talking Footy podcast. It is an Origin preview. We're going to break down each squad and what we think we can expect from the benches, especially in the Queensland bench. We're going to give our predictions from the games, all the stats that you need to help with your multis, and we will give a quick pick of the round 20 preview, and we'll give our Dally M winner predictions as well as we are approaching round 20. Brought to you, as always, by TBC Live. Going down the app from the App Store for free. Get amongst the action in that. The link is in our bio. But like always, my friend Jordan, mate, we're both wearing the sky blue. But before we get into that sky blue and maroon action, there was a little bit of the black action last night. That was the All Blacks. They defeat England 24-17. The Eden Park record remains intact. Two players for me that stood out though in this one was Dalton Papali'i. He had 11 tackles. He had a turnover. He also had 5 carries, and he just looks like he's starting to cement himself in that number 7 jersey and really make it his own. But the other one, Beauden Barrett, off the bench in both test matches, just that touch of class that we needed to come on and ice those games. Last night, he was absolutely exceptional. Some skills that were on display from him, absolutely fantastic, mate. What was your thoughts on the game itself and the players?
Well, I'm glad you clarified that the black action you were talking about was the All Blacks, because I'd hate for you to be talking about your web history or your porn history or something like that. But yeah, man, that black action was some good black action, because I was very impressed with this game. It was somewhat stop-start after the first 20. There was a lot of expansion in that first 20 minutes, and it was actually a very entertaining game to watch. But in terms of players that impressed me, man, I have to agree, Beauden Barrett, when he came on, he really changed the game. And I know a lot of people are probably thinking whether his best role would be as a starter or keep in that bench position. But I think he impacted the game as well as he did with that injection and that spark of attacking ability and stuff like that when he came on is a perfect usage for him. I think when you have Stephen Perifetta, his kicking wasn't that good. His ability to exit the 22 and stuff like that was a little bit dodgy. But he is a very safe fullback, and he is good to have on when you are in a territorial battle like you can sometimes be early on in games. So I like when Beauden Barrett comes on. We've been using him like this for like 10 years. So he's obviously got an absolute knack for coming on, changing the look of a game. And he did that here because, honestly, with about 20 minutes to go, I thought we were going to lose the game because England had a lot of territory on our line. And we just, like I said about Perifetta's kicking, and not just him, other people as well, we were struggling to exit, and we were putting ourselves under a lot of territorial pressure. And then Beauden Barrett comes on, and he just seems to, instead of just resorting to the kick and maybe not clearing as much distance as you'd like, he kept his eyes up and he was attacking from everywhere. And you saw a couple of breaks from like 80 meters out that really put the momentum back in our favor and really got the crowd behind us. So completely agree, man. I almost put this win down to Beauden Barrett's injection into the game. Yeah. Absolutely outstanding.
I agree 100%. And like you said, the momentum change that happened when he came on the field, because it was a bit of a stalemate there for a little bit. England were really starting to put us under the pressure. And like you said, there were a few questionable decisions in terms of the exit strategies or just kicking in general. And there was that one play where he just showed that absolute touch of class to pick it up on that left hand, put it instantly on the left hand boot, chase after it, and before it even touches the ground, to then kick it again with the right foot. And he almost regathered that as well. It would have been absolutely an exceptional try. But it sets that attacking platform up for us, and it's just that game breaker, That's sort of, I guess that's what we used to Damien McKenzie a little bit as well in terms of just the attacking flair. But Beauden Barrett just has that little bit of calmness, that experience to just go in and just ice those games. And it's good to see him Perifetta is going to be getting that experience nonetheless from these moments, and obviously having Beauden around him as well. But just to see just that different level or that different impact, the experience that he brings, just absolutely fantastic. Now, obviously, it's a 2-0 win or 2-0 series to us over England, which is good to see. England, they played actually a pretty good brand of football. I think I said in our group chat throughout the game, it was good to see them playing that attacking rugby. 2 kicks off tries. I know there was the attempted drop goal right at the very start, and the crowd were getting into them off that. But I was very impressed with England. And obviously the Northern Hemisphere in a whole, it looks like that level playing field out there at the moment with the other results that we've seen from some of these other matches. But it's been a while since we've played a test series against England or seen anything like this as well. And I wasn't sure what to expect from them. We did see them throughout the second half, you could see that the pace of the game was really starting to take their toll. And you saw a lot of players taking a knee, looking for that extra recovery, which was an interesting tactic because you could see that they couldn't quite keep up with the tempo from the All Blacks. And we sort of talked about Razor's, I guess, game plan last week from the first test match. And it's not so much the game plan, but it's that Crusaders type of footy where you would see them sort of just jump into that arm wrestle type of affair. And then as soon as that second half comes, that tempo just lifts to a whole nother level. And just to play at that type of pace with them, they were really struggling. But England, I was very impressed with them, and especially Marcus Smith as well. I thought he had his fingerprints all over that game. Now they're going to be taking on Fiji next Saturday in San Diego.
Oh,
Yeah, they've only had one game or one test this season, and that was against Georgia. But I am actually a little bit worried about this one just because of how physical they are going to be. It's a one-off test match as well. We haven't had a lot of exposure, I guess, to those Fijian players that'll be in the international team. I know we've had a lot of them with the Fijian Drua, but a lot of those guys play over in the northern hemisphere. But what do you think is going to, or what do you expect Fiji is going to bring?
yeah, Fiji, you have to take them very cautiously. They are a legit team. We saw that in the World Cup last year. Very unlucky not to make the semi-final of the World Cup. Got very close to England in that quarterfinal. So they're right there with England's quality if it is as strong a team as we saw in that World Cup. And I agree with you. They are very physical up front. And I'm not sure their line speed on defense is quite as good as England and how good England was throughout the series they played us. But they are very physical, and front-on tackles do always stick for the Fijians. And they can make you go back when it starts rolling and they start making those tackles, and you aren't, stretching the defense by going behind pods and stuff like that and just hitting your front runners. They can make you pay and they can push you back a little bit. So there is a slight inkling of worry, but at the end of the day, I think we are still just a quality higher. I think we will hit the back doors on those pods. I think we will play expansive on the Fijians. And I think we just play to a structure that and a pace even. I know Fiji like a fast brand of footy, but I think we play to a pace that Fiji won't be able to keep up with. And I could see an arm wrestle in the first half with us blowing out the second half with some great tries out the back line. So I do worry a little bit, but not enough for me not to pick the All Blacks.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. As for the venue as well, Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego, I think they got this one wrong. I think you want to play this, obviously, you want to, I guess, develop the game over in America. We want to see that growth happening over there, but those are the type of games that you want to play, like the USA or someone over there. And I looked at the schedule just to see if maybe we had some sort of European team as a warm up before we head into the Rugby Championship, but it's straight into it after that. And this would have been the perfect time to have taken this game over to Fiji and play it over there. Give them something over there as well. Save a little bit of money. I mean, traveling over to Fiji is a little bit different as opposed to over in San Diego as well. But it is a shame that they missed the mark on that one. Nonetheless, though, it will be a very interesting game. Now we're going to get into accountability, try July, and the performance of the round before we get into the Origin chat. So we'll start off with accountability, Jordan. Obviously, we're still waiting on a game to be played, but we'll just give you our picks up to date.
Yeah, so started off on Thursday with the Dolphins beating the Rabbitohs 36-28 in a bit of a try fest. I think they both scored the same amount of tries, but kicking really let the Rabbitohs down, obviously missing Latrell Mitchell. I've gone Dolphins head-to-head into total points over 46.5, which has come through.
Nice. And I've taken AJ into Osako at $3.40. Unfortunately, we go down there. AJ scores, but Osako no good.
And then the Friday game, Sharks absolutely destroying the Tigers 58-6. I said I didn't really know where this game was going to go. I probably wasn't expecting it to be this big of a hiding for the Sharks. And like you can see that here with my best bet, I've got Tigers plus 7.5, which definitely is not it.
Yeah, and I've gone back to my bread and butter in this one. We've gone with a try scorer and a team either to win or cover the line, which is where I make my money, and that's Sione Katoa into the Sharks to win at $2.30, so we cash that.
And then Saturday, Titans beating the Eels 24-16. They were looking pretty good early on, the Titans, but kind of took their foot off the gas. I've gone Titans 13 plus and double stakers, so unfortunately we've gone down twice.
Yeah, that's unfortunate there. It was looking like they were in for all money on that one. I've gone with an AKP into the Eels plus 7.5. It's an 8-point difference, so we miss out by 0.5 of a point at $3.40 and we go down there.
And then the final game on Saturday, Dragons beating the Broncos 30-26. Some good scores coming out of the weekend. Shows that rugby league can be a beautiful game when the weather's good. I've gone the Dragons plus 5.5. Didn't even need it because they've won outright. So good work, Dragons.
Yeah, nice. I've also taken the Dragons at a plus 5.5. I've gone Dean Mariner and Sloan both to score in this one at $7.75. Unfortunately, we go down there. But I did put my balls on the line and pick the Dragons upset in that one. I think you held my hand on that one as well. So Good picking from us there.
And then we have some incomplete repeat set bets and 40-20 bets. My repeat set and 40-20s have come through though. Titans minus 5.5 has come through, so we'll take that to the bank. And then the 40-20 bet, I have gone the Dragons head-to-head into Pereira anytime try scorer, which he's been in sensational try scoring form. So that has also come through.
Nice, mate. Is that your first 40-20 of the season?
It's under 5, I'll tell you that much.
Nice. My repeat set bet is still alive at the moment. We've got an AKP into Marju at $2.53. So hopefully we go through there. But the 40-20 has come through for me. And a big X there. We've got the Bunnies plus 4.5, Eels plus 7.5, and the Dragons plus 6.5. So the Bunnies and Eels just letting me down. Very close on those lines there nonetheless. As opposed for the unit collect, we're a little bit unfinished on that one. So we will keep those up to date. We're going to move into Try July and back at it again with our favourite tries in July. Buy round footy, so there are a few fair and few celebrations in between in this one, but nonetheless, we've got two good ones for you, and I'll start us off. Philip Sami hitting the Gutherino again against the Eels. Now, this is not the first time that he has done this one. One of the kings of the try celebration here, he did the same celebration in 2022 on top of Gutho. So there's a little bit of history between these two, but Filisami goes through the nice little try for the Titans against the Eels, and he hits the classic Gutherino there. So I like to see it, man. I like to see a little bit of history and some celebrations that have a little bit of meaning or a little bit of animosity behind them. And like I said earlier, this isn't the first time Philip Sami has hit the Gutho against the Eels.
Yeah, I love that. I love that little rivalry they're starting to build there, him and Clint Gutherson. Such a weird rivalry that rugby league always seems to produce between these players. And I love Philip Sami. He seems to have tried July all the way through the year because he loves a celebration. And he's a big UFC fan as well, where you can see with some of the celebrations. I think the day of Izzy knocking out Alex Pereira, he did the arrow celebration. So must have been watching it in the changing room before the game happened. So, yeah, Philip Sami, one of the kings of the try celebration. One of the more unexpected ones for me was Brighton Nakora with the little spider webs. It was only a little subtle one, but I thought it was kind of unique and something different. So I liked it there. 62nd minute, Trindle kind of probes the line, hits him with that trademark short ball down line that Brighton Nakora loves to run against some really soft defense, unfortunately for the Tigers, but goes through and then comes up, shoots some webs at the camera. So, hey, shout out Brighton Nakora, very creative.
Yeah, I agree. It's good to see some guys just getting behind something a little bit different as well. It might not be a stock standard celebration, but nonetheless, it's cool to see something a little bit different. A shout out to maybe a little bit of Kiwi heritage, and he's going for the Spywa men in that one.
Yeah.
You've segued me into... Oh, yeah.
So shout out Christian Tuipulotu for perhaps the worst one, where I think someone like
Moses Sully.
as he's did it.
Yeah, Moses Sully scores a try and he goes for the big Latrell Mitchell boot it into the crown. But Tuipulotu was just way too excited celebrating someone else's try that he sticks his big ass out in the middle of it, charges it down, loses his feet, and Moses Sully's just cracking up at him as well. They were having an absolute field day out on that edge as well. It was pretty animated. But yeah, it would have been good to have seen Tuipulotu maybe come up with a couple of different celebrations because he was too busy about spraying stuff into the crowd. I'm not sure. I was hoping they'd pan out into there and see if it was a dragon section or something, or it was just some guys talking shit to him because he was just going at it a couple of times. But yeah, nonetheless, pretty funny. You've kind of segued me here into performances of the round, talking about Trindle, because he is my top performer of the round. Against the Tigers, he had 1 try, 3 try assists, 2 tackle breaks, 2 line break assists, and 22 points, 9 for 10 off the boot. It was a great performance from him in this one. But for me, it just makes it even clearer for the Sharks that he is more of a 7 than a 6, and I'm not sure what they do. Do they end up pulling the trigger potentially on Atkinson to see if that works a little bit more with Nico? Because you can see very clearly in here that he needs to have the ball in his hand, and that's where he performs his best. And he looked absolutely fantastic out there. It was almost like a Nico performance against a Tigers team that we'd see. I mean, couple of rounds earlier, we did see the Tigers beat the Sharks with Nico at the helm, unfortunately, in there. But nonetheless, Trindle, fantastic performance. But do you think he's more of a 7 as opposed to a 6?
I think he's definitely more of a 7 as opposed to a 6. And we kind of previewed that last week by saying this offense might look a little better
Mm.
with one or the other at the helm and then Atkinson coming into that 6th position. So that's exactly what's happened here. And it did look a hell of a lot better. And Trindle played very, very well. But I'm still unsure. Well, I'm definitely sure that he's not quite as good as Nico Hines when Nico Hines is at his best. Nico Hines at his best got selected for New South Wales Origin, so he must be doing something right. So I think this game almost showed us that I think Braden Trindle played so well that he played himself out of the team maybe in the future. They might be like, okay, we obviously need a 7 and a 6. Nico Hines is probably an upgraded version of Trindle. Even though Trindle did good here, we kind of have the framework for our most dominant attack laid out now. So
Yeah.
great performance by Trindle. Who knows when Nico Hines come back, what it will look like, but at least now he's got an opportunity to maybe cement himself in that position because Nico Hines is going to be out for so long. So shout out Trindle. I like the shout out. So my performance is on a similar sort of thing because it's a guy who has been changed to a position he hasn't usually played, and that's Jaden Campbell for the Titans. I think since moving to that 6th position and working on that left side, I think he's been outstanding, man. And I had my doubts because Kieran Foran for the last couple of years has been super good at connecting with David Fafita on that left side and unlocking him and just making the offense tick down that side. But since they've moved him over to the right side's going just as good because Kieran Foran has shown his class at 34 years of age now. And Jaden Campbell has been electric on that left side too. It's like the game, you hit a certain point in your age, and Jaden Campbell's probably getting to that age where the game is slowing down for him. And he seems just so poised and so relaxed when he gets the ball. And it's like he's got all the time in the world, even with rushing defense coming up on him. Lorenzo Mulatalo shooting out of the line a lot of times, a little bit dodgily. But he just drew him in, released Cam Pereira, and that's why there was so many opportunities early on for the Titans in that first half to score tries down that side. So shout out Jaden Campbell. We saw it a couple of weeks ago with the Warriors as well, where he just cut us to bits with that same sort of thing, just a patient approach, good attacking mindset and good vision with his peripherals and with just slowing the game down to see his opportunities and taking them. So Jaden Campbell, outstanding. His stats, 8 points, 4 from 4 kicking, 3 line break assists, 3 try assists, 4 tackle breaks, 21 tackles, which he was putting in a good shift on the defensive end. He did miss a couple. I believe he missed 5, but when they did run at him, I remember the winger taking a carry back and him just dropping the shoulder with perfect technique. So you like to see that as well because he's also been known as a very small player, and we've had questions over his durability and his longevity in this game because of his size. But it does look like he's packed on about 5 kilos. I do think he's probably over 80 kilos now, which is surprising for Jaden Campbell. And I think he's got the physicality to be somewhat competitive now as a professional rugby league player. So Jaden Campbell, super impressed with the positional change, and he's doing really well.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you touched on that because the Titans were in a real tricky spot as opposed to the balance that they had with the 3 of them out there, Keanu Kinney, Brimson and Campbell. And I really think that he is finding a spot there in that number 6. And it's really good to see that they've obviously re-signed Kieran Foran on another, just on the 1-year deal, because you've got Carter Gordon coming in, you've got Jaden Campbell there on that left-hand edge, and they're only going to be better with that experience that Foz is going to give them and help them learn and develop their games as they move forward. And you're going to have a really nice, young and exciting spine there, especially if Jaden Campbell is going to find a home there, because then you're looking at Keanu Kinney obviously eventually taking the reins from AJ Brimson at the back there. If he can potentially play that same 14 role off the bench and just provide that impact and that spark for them. But he's really looking good in 2 games there. And you wanted to see if it was just going to be a one-off wonder there in that game against the Wires, but he was real solid out there again. And the goal kicking as well from him has been really good to see, which is, very exciting times for Titans fans. Now we're going to move into State of Origin, mate. The Suncorp decider is upon us. Game 3. We always want to see a decider. No one wants to see a dead rubber. And we're in for an absolute doozy. Something that doesn't come around too often, and that is a Suncorp decider. Now, Queensland obviously are going to head into this. They are $1.79 favourites in this one. New South Wales are $2.04 underdogs, and the line is sitting at 1.5. New South Wales is the underdog. We've seen that line changing almost daily at the moment with the news coming out in terms of camp with Bradman Best and where that injury concern is looming. And when Latrell was ruled out early on, that line started to shift as well. So It's really exciting, man. I don't know what we'll get into our predictions, obviously, but I don't know what team to pick in this one. It is real tough picking. But let's discuss the build up to this match. It's been two 13 plus victories for either side. Queensland win game one despite a really resilient effort, I think, from New South Wales, who are obviously down to 12 men, and then thumping them, obviously, in game two at the MCG. Game three, there is so much attack to offer from either squads here. Do you think we're going to be in for a real high scoring or potentially a tight affair?
I think it's going to be tighter. I have a feeling it's going to be tighter than the last two games because there's just so much on the line. And although these are full of guns and full of guys with a lot of experience who have been in this arena before, that'll probably be conditioned for this sort of pressure, you're still going to feel the pressure, man, especially in a decider. And the coaches have probably sort of given them the MO to just play high percentage footy early on to just get a foothold on this game and work your way into the game and not risk any sort of territorial lapses where you give the other team an opportunity. So I can see this one being a lot tighter. I think New South Wales have lost a couple of guys that, well, mainly just Latrell, but they will be less dominant than they were in that first game, is all I'll say. And also Queensland will be much more up for this game. They sort of lacked a little bit of energy, like they were already up one game, and they didn't really show up on defense either. So I can see this game being a lot closer and a lot tighter either way.
Yeah, I think the key one for New South Wales, I think bringing Mitch Barnett into that bench position is they do think they're going to need to bring a lot of grunt up front. I think this game is going to potentially be one in the middle there, and they've gone for that size and that X factor. And then I guess Queensland have gone for the complete opposite with that. They've gone for speed, arguably here, but yeah, it's almost been a arm wrestle with the back five in a way throughout this series as well, just being the workhorses for throughout both games in this one. I think New South Wales have really dominated that side of it. And with the changes that Queensland have made in terms of obviously bringing in Selwyn Cobbo and you've got Valentine Holmes there, I still think New South Wales sort of have that edge over them in terms of just that fight and bringing it to them. But I mean, the Suncorp factor definitely comes to play in this one. As opposed to the high scoring and tight, I think we're going to see another high scoring game in this one. It's very evident on either side points are going to be scored, and you know what players that's sort of going to come from. And obviously with New South Wales, you thought in game two it was going to be a little bit more on that left edge, which we did see, but there was a lot of attack from that right side with Critter and Zach Lomax too. And I think they'll probably head back down that channel again with Valentine Holmes. So I think it's going to be a high scoring game, but I do think it is going to be a very tight result come the end of it. Now, it's been a very entertaining series. Glasshouses has been the word of choice, I guess you could say, throughout the whole thing. How do you think both coaches have gone with their series this year for their respective teams?
I think Madge has done a really good job for New South Wales. He was kind of hamstrung by a whole lot of injuries in that first game, no pun intended. So he didn't have a great pool of players to choose from. He still had decent talent because New South Wales pool always runs pretty deep. But in terms of fielding the most competitive side you could in a State of Origin game, it wasn't quite there in game one. But once all the players started coming back on deck, bar Nathan Cleary, you saw how good of a team that Madge was able to put together in that game too. So I think he's done a great job. And he stuck with a lot of the decisions that won him that game too in the same game. So it's good to see him going with some retention. I think Bradman Best is a really good choice to bring in for Latrell Mitchell, being that he is healthy. The reports say that he is healthy enough to go at a high level. So I like what he's done with this team. Every little move that he's made, as well as the just team reformation in general, has been very solid and very beneficial like we saw in game two. So Madge, can't fault him there. Billy Slater, he's kind of working with what he's been working with the last couple of years. He's obviously got his sort of format to what sort of team he wants to construct, and he's stuck with it here all through these first three games. And we've seen that with some selection things like the exclusion of David Fafita, which he has been very stubborn and just holding firm on not picking him despite the injuries that Queensland is picking up, and still going with his trusted players like Kurt Capewell, Felice Kafusi, Mo Fodawaker, and just keeping the guys that he knows and he is trusted for the first two games. So I don't know. Billy, he's a mixed one because I like that he does keep with his ethos and what he wants to build in a team, but he also seems to be a little bit stubborn in adjusting his approach by bringing in a guy that does have the X factor like David Fafita, and just kind of setting his personal maybe animosity to the side, or maybe some personal opinions, and making some selections that does help the team better. So yeah, I give him like a B maybe for Billy Slater, B minus.
B for Billy, I like it. I agree
Yeah.
with you 100%. I think Billy Slater has been stubborn in the way that he has selected his side and stuck with it, but that's what we've seen with Billy Slater over the last couple of years in terms of, I guess, that Queensland mentality of you've seen these guys in the Origin Arena, what they've done with the Queensland jersey. You know how much that means to them, and he knows that they're going to go out there and do a job, and he knows exactly what they bring, and he's looking for that squad, that harmony, just a grinded out team in terms of those sort of positions, and he knows where that attacking flair is going to go. As for Michael Maguire, I think he's done an absolute fantastic job. I agree with you 100%. I think rolling out in game one the squad that he did, it was like the squad that we had questions over, I guess. If he had come out there and he hadn't put Nico Hines maybe at the 7 jersey, despite maybe if he was carrying calf concerns or something, it was the best available player that he had at the time, and he made the call on that. And you got to respect him, and he's made the adjustments to suit as well. Latrell Mitchell wasn't in fantastic form come game one, and he gave it to those guys that he wanted to see earn the jersey, develop these young players as well. And he's gone out there and done that. And then game two, he's made the adjustments for it. It was the Latrell Mitchell question in terms of, does he go out there? If he wasn't in the squad and we go out there and we lose, it would have been all, maybe we should have picked Latrell. And he's answered those questions, and he's made slight tweaks as well. Mitch Barnett, that call, or the call on him to bring him into the squad for game three as well, it's because that Hamoli sort of question and where he actually fits, that impact that he brings off the bench. He's more of a starting right side second row, and Liam Martin has just been absolutely fantastic. And then bringing Liam Martin from that right side edge into the middle just to bring Hamoli in hasn't quite worked in some aspects, because he's sort of had to empty the tank there, and he can make that adjustment on game time now. Whether he brings Mitch Barnett onto that edge, that right edge, and brings Liam Martin in maybe to increase the tempo a little bit, give him a break and shift Mitch Barnett in there, or bring Barnett in the middle. And he's made those slight tweaks. And as opposed to the glass houses comment, I think he's just carried this absolutely perfectly. We haven't seen any noise other than the coaches going at each other throughout. Spencer Leniu coming into the squad. Obviously, we had the monkey shenanigans with him in Las Vegas to begin the year. There were a lot of players that were vocal throughout the team, throughout that early on. Latrell Mitchell being one of them in terms of the racist remarks. Comes into camp and you'd expect to see maybe a little bit of friction or something like that. Absolutely nothing. Jerome Luai, we haven't seen anything from him. He's just gone at it, and he's done it in a very, very calculated way, where he's gone at Billy Slater. He's gone at ex-Queensland players instead of going at the players as well, and he's controlled the narrative in that respect. So I think he's done absolutely fantastic. And like you said, with the cattle that he's had to pick from, I think every single game, there's been a few questions, I guess, throughout, but there's always going to be questions, and you don't know until you know. And
Yeah.
he's done fantastic for this. Now let's discuss the squads. So we'll start with Queensland and I guess the back five for them. So we've got Reece Walsh, Selwyn Cobbo comes in on the wing, Holmes pushes out to the wing as well, the hammer is still in there, and Dane Gagai, he comes into centre. Do you think that this is the best available back five for Queensland?
Now, there is two ways I sort of look at this back line. I do think it is the back line I would pick at this point in time if I was the Queensland coach, Billy Slater. But I still favour Kalen Ponga as the best fullback in the world at full health and full strength over Reece Walsh. So I'd probably have Kalen Ponga starting at fullback. But given that he's only just come back a week ago, I do probably favour picking Reece Walsh, who has been in the lineups for the last two games and has been already understanding that structure that Queensland is trying to run. So I would pick this as my current back five for Queensland. I do like how they've moved Valentine Holmes out to the wing, because for all his attacking brilliance that he sometimes shows, he is a little bit sketchy on defense. And Dane Gagai is a little bit more confrontational and a little bit more solid as a defender in that center position. So I like them bringing him in. He is a little bit questionably slow of foot now, because I have seen a couple of weeks ago Mitchell Moses really take him on and go at him twice and burn him for speed. But he is coming up against a guy in Bradman Best who he has probably played many times on the paddock at training for the Knights, and he is probably used to the way he runs lines. And Bradman Best is a little bit more direct, as opposed to maybe those faster guys like Moses and Luai, who Moses will still be there trying to lurk around and pick on Gagai when he gets the chance. But in terms of just doing a jobby on Bradman Best, I like Gagai in this position. And Selwyn Cobo, just absolute X factor. Love seeing him come into the team. And, he's probably bound to do some good exit yardage and good, X factor carries that we like to see from him for the Broncos. So, yeah, I'm happy with this back five. It's what I would have picked.
Yeah, I agree with you with the Reece Walsh and Kalen Ponga comparison. I honestly think that the last round was almost an audition again for that Queensland #1 jersey. If Reece Walsh had come out against the Penrith Panthers and not been foot or pedal to the metal in that one and taken the game by the helms, I reckon there would have been a few question marks in that, just because of how much it got dominated, his questionable decisions again. And it'll be interesting to see how he plays it in this one. If he's a little bit more calculated with how he attacks the game, or whether he just thinks that he's 9 foot or 6 foot tall and can run into anything. There's no Latrell out there to manhandle him. In terms of the wings, I agree with you and Valentine Holmes. I think him out on that left wing spot, we've seen him doing an Origin time and time again. He's an absolute electric with his footwork, his yardage carries, and I think he'll do an absolute jobby out there. And Selwyn Cobo, I reckon he's going to get absolutely peppered in this one with the high kicks from Moses and Jerome Luai. I think he's got a mistake in him. He's potentially got 3 mistakes in him in a game, and I think they're going to really put a lot of pressure a lot of pressure on him, and they're not gonna let him have that first carry or that second carry off the return. They're going to want to kick him the ball and make the likes of Reece Walsh and the likes of Valentine Holmes, Dane Gagai, those slightly smaller bodies, take those carries as well. So I think he's going to be put under a lot of pressure in this one. For New South Wales, though, Bradman Best, obviously, he gets the green light. Looks like he is going to play. He's been rejoined the camp in terms of training and everything, so Matt Burton will likely retain his spot as 18th man. And obviously, Mitch Barnett, he moves in on the bench spot. Are you happy with this New South Wales squad at the moment? Before you get into it, though, I got it wrong last week. Mitch Barnett, he missed the birth of his second child, a young boy. This was before game 1. He missed the birth for game 1 training camp where he wasn't even 18th man. He wasn't in the starting team. He wasn't in the playing group, I guess. And he's come out and he said that he didn't want to let the boys down, and he flew back to help his partner leave the hospital, obviously, after it all happened. He didn't want to let the boys down for a game 1 game where he wasn't even going to be playing. Do you think he's just set the new standard for State of Origin?
I mean,
that's crazy.
I hope other guys aren't looking at that and thinking, oh, I've got the pass to just miss the birth of my children now because he has gone through these lengths to be in the New South Wales camp. I think this man just bleeds blue, and you love to hear it as a Blues fan, because with guys having like dual like they can play for both states and then making decisions, guys like Tavita Pangai Jr. and Jaden Campbell and stuff like that. It's good to see a guy who's just true blue with the passion to be a New South Wales Blues player and put it all on the line like he has done here. So Mitch Barnett, I'm so glad he gets his opportunity to play a game. And I like what you said before about his versatility coming off the bench. Hamoli really comes on, and I haven't really seen him play anywhere else for the Seagulls other than just on that right edge where he's just a hard runner and he plays out the back and sort of, can really threaten the defenses with an offload and cause havoc. But Mitch Barnett, we've seen all season that they've changed him from edge to prop and playing him on like both sides of the field as well. So he obviously has the versatility to come on and give anyone that needs a break in that forward pack if they are starting to struggle. So Mitch Barnett, perfect inclusion there. And in terms of Bradman Best, I do like how they bring him in. Obviously, I think he is a step down from Latrell because he has the same, I'd say, danger factor when he is running at you, and he can really threaten the line just going directly at it. But Latrell has that soft skill where he's so aware that he can draw you in, pull in like 2 defenders coming at him, and then just do a silky little pass out to the wing and set up his man on the outside. So I think Latrell has kind of got the advantage in that department. But Bradman Best also does something that sort of equals the playing field with Queensland in my eyes as well. And that's the breakout X-Factor ability, which we've seen for the Knights. He can just make something happen from 80 meters out, sort of run hard, break through 2 defenders on the blind side, and then do an 80-meter break that sets up a try for the Knights. We've seen that on numerous occasions. So I like that we have that in our arsenal as well as New South. to match the guys that they have in Queensland, because Queensland always seem to have those moments where someone will break out and just score a try from 80 meters, like Hammer, like Reece Walsh, like guys like that. So I like that he brings that sort of X factor into the New South Wales backline.
As for Mitch Barnett, stay tuned on the Warriors socials, because the Hello Sport boys are going to do a little thing where meters times tackles made, whatever that equals, they're going to send that amount of nappies to the New Zealand Warriors camp for Mrs. Barnett, just as an appreciation for everything that he has done for the great state of New South Wales, which is fantastic. And as for Hamole as well, I heard a little while, I think it was earlier on this week on another show that I listened to, them discuss the positional, or the decision to put Barnett in there. And obviously Hamole at Clubland, you see him out on that right edge a lot of the time, and the play sort of centres around him, and he doesn't go, not a knock on Hamole at all, but he's not one of those guys that will go in and create or potentially work. He's fantastic at what he does, but he's almost a little bit of, he's quiet, and he's a big boy out on there, but he sort of lets the game come to him a little bit as opposed to taking it on. And I think the only way that he gets that New South Wales jersey potentially again is if he's starting on that right edge, just because of the way that he impacts a game off the bench is just going to be a little bit different. And what Barnett offers when he comes on, we saw it just last week for the Warriors, the ball playing that he has as well, the engine that he has in the middle. But man, he's just going to bring that grunt, that brute force, that origin. Imagine sitting on the bench as a Queenslander, Reece Walsh potentially, or Harry Grant, DCE, and you see the scorecards come up for Spencer Leniu and Mitch Barnett to enter the game. It's just going to be fireworks. They're going to be wreaking havoc out there. I can't wait. Now for the Queensland bench, we're going to move into that. So obviously Harry Grant, he gets the all clear despite suffering a nasty sternum injury. So do keep an eye on that, out on that. I think Angus Crichton's going to be running with the bumper bars up, straighten him on that sternum there. He's been getting injections for it just to train. Apparently it's absolutely nasty. He hasn't played a game since game 2 as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they play him in this one, potentially even if he gets a few limited minutes out there as well, but look for a lot of elbows up on him. Mo Fodawaker, Felice Kafusi, and Kalen Ponga, he joins the squad. Now, what to expect, I guess, from Kalen Ponga? He made his Origin debut in Game 2 2018. Now, Billy was also the fullback in that squad, so it's tough to get a gauge on how they'll actually play him in this one, because at the time, they obviously had no Harry Grant coming off the bench there. But I think, so he came on in the 20th minute in that game. He played in the middle. He linked really well with Billy Slater. Go back and watch the highlights if you're listening to this, or watch the highlights of this of that game if you're listening to this, because it is actually really good just to see that shape that they provided, and it kind of gives you maybe a little bit of insight as opposed to how that structure is going to work, and it gives you a few nightmares when you see how they linked with the likes of Greg Inglis out on that left centre edge, where obviously the hammer is out there on this occasion. But it was really good to see. You could sort of see how they linked that, and you can see potentially what Billy might do with Kalen Ponga being that ball player, potentially out the back off a DCE or Tommy Dead in first play, and then you got Reece Walsh sweeping out the back of that there though. But I guess the question for us that we've sort of been debating, you and me a lot through the week as well, and a few other people, I guess the question is, when does it happen and for who? I think it'll be actually, I think I said to you, it might be around that 20th minute mark, but I actually think it'll be around the 30-minute mark. And I think it'll be for Paddy Carrigan. And I think both Kalen Ponga and Harry Grant will come in the middle there and just completely increase the tempo for Queensland. I think Harry Grant will come in for Ben Hunt, give him that spell like we've seen in both the first 2 games. He comes off with that on that 30-minute mark, and you bring Kalen Ponga in for Paddy Carrigan in the middle there. Instead of obviously who we've got on the bench, Mo Fodawaker and Felice Kafusi, you're just going to inject speed around the ruck there and potentially completely change the tempo. And if you're going to bring Harry Grant in around the ruck there, the ruck plays that you're going to have with the likes of Kalen Ponga, Reece Walsh, Daly Cherry Evans sort of sniping around there, and then the shape that you're going to have off the back of that as well, because you've also got Ruben Cotter in there who can shift in and ball play off that first play, and then you've just got this sweeping, ridiculous attack out there. So I think that's potentially what's going to happen in, that's what I think is going to happen. That 30th minute mark, I reckon Kalen Ponga is going to be injected into the game. But if you're sitting there, and I've been, I guess having nightmares of this, and when you're watching the game, you just see how ruthless it looks and how crazy the attack might be, because you're watching that game and it's Billy Slater at the back there instead of Reece Walsh, and you think of what Reece Walsh can do with that sweeping attacking edge. One good thing, New South Wales won that game, 18-14. They also won the series that year. So Kalen Ponga coming off the bench, he might have killed it, but yeah, good omen there.
Yeah, and I really like your take as well. I did have some concerns earlier in the week when we were talking about it, just how it might look with them not having a lot of time to prepare to run that sort of structure, with Kalen Ponga only coming in for the last 10 days before this game. He hasn't had the full chance to prepare with the other two games because he's been injured. So I do have questions over how long we will see this sort of combination. But the way you've sort of outlined it with Patrick Carrigan coming off and then Kalen Ponga coming on, it does seem like a very dangerous proposition. And I think if they can get it right on the day, it is going to be very, very concerning for the New South Wales defence. And it could put us under a lot of pressure. On the other hand, it could not go quite well. They might not be connecting, him and Reece Walsh, and the structure might look a little bit muddled. And with them not knowing how to integrate Kalen Ponga perfectly into that sort of system. So I'm hoping it is sort of that thing and we don't see it for too long. But it is a very dangerous proposition if it comes out. And it kind of makes sense as to why Harry Grant is being so, they're still trying to play him in that 14 position despite being injected with, cortisone or whatever, and being in a very bad shape to play, because he does add a little pace as well when he comes onto the field that is necessary, that Reed Marnie would not be able to bring if he were to come on with Kalen Ponga. So if they are going to do that 1-2 punch, it needs to be Harry Grant. So I understand why they're being so 10 toes down and wanting to keep Harry Grant as the reserve hooker, because with him keeping his pace, it's going to be so much easier for Reece Walsh and for Kalen Ponga to be probing and looking for opportunities off the back of that fast play of the ball and those fast ruck speeds. So, yeah, it is dangerous. I do look at Mo Fotuaika, who is a solid runner but doesn't offer too much other than hard carries. And then Felice Kafusi is getting a bit long in the tooth. He still defends pretty hard, but his carries aren't the greatest as well. And I do think, man, that is kind of weak forwards to kind of marry with Kurt Capewell, who has not been the greatest for the Warriors, who, had a good game a couple of weeks ago. But other than that, he's really been just trying to find himself, get back into form, because he has been injured for a long period of time this season. So I look at their forward rotation and it's not that good to me. And considering how that second game, panned out with the forward domination of New South Wales, it is alarm signs for Queensland. And you got to hope that up-tempo style that they're planning on playing with Kalen Ponga and Harry Grant coming off the bench, and with the electric back five that they've selected, that they're going to have to move the ball and really play at a high pace to keep that New South Wales pack moving around the field and eventually break them down later in the game. So, yeah, forwards, very concerning, that bench for me.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a game of chess for both coaches in the box, and it's going to be interesting to see who pulls the trigger first in this one, in terms of when Billy pulls trigger on Kalen Ponga, and then when Madge pulls trigger on Leniu and Barnett. Because you've obviously got a lot of speed that's going to come on around the ruck there in terms of Harry and Ponga. Then you got Reece Walsh out the back there. Tommy Dearden's, he's got a lot of toe to him as well, and the hammer floating a little bit out there as well. But then you've just got size through the middle there, and that balance that they're going to have to find. There's going to bring Spencer Leniu on for Jake Trbojevic, or it might be Barnett in there for Gerbo as well. And you've got Payne Haas in the middle there, just anchoring that middle. And then Connor Watson as well. He might see a few extra early minutes in this one to give Reece Robson a spell there, give his legs a breast, and just see that lateral movement, that side to side leg speed that he has to potentially counteract what's going to be happening around the ruck there. Just go out there and just be a nuisance in the middle. But it is going to be a game of chess out there. It's going to be interesting to see who plays chess, not checkers, in this series, because I've never seen a series where the bench has been talked about so much and so prominently as well. Billy started obviously with Selwyn Cobbo out the back there, and he's finishing it now with Ponga as well. But man, it's going to be interesting and to see how they play it as well, because I am super intrigued to see when they pull trigger on Ponga and what it's going to look like. Now we're going to move into prediction time, mate. Before we get into our predictions, here are the stats that you obviously need to know. So Queensland have won the last 8 Game 3 matches at Suncorp. 7 of the last 8 Game 3 Origin matches have gone under the total match points line. Val Holmes, he has scored the first try in each of his last 4 Origin Game 3 matches at Suncorp. 12 of the last 14 Origin matches at Suncorp, the Queensland right wing has scored a try, and Zach Lomax, he has scored a try in each of his last 2 Origin matches. Now, Jordan, mate, who wins this one, and what is the score that you're predicting?
So I said I was going to go closer, a lot closer than the first 2 games. I am going to stick with that. I am going to go New South Wales to beat Queensland 24-18. I think we're going to maintain a 2-try lead throughout the game. And then later on in the game, where that fast pace of Queensland sort of breaks down tired defenses, I think they're going to score a try and then put us under real pressure in that final 10 minutes to try and catch that game with a try to draw it up. But they won't get it. I say New South Wales hold on 24-18.
Well, mate, I think New South Wales win this as well. I think Queensland is going to score 18 points, and I think New South Wales is going to score 22. I have it been very close, just like you. And yeah, it's gonna. I think there's a lot of tries out there on the field for these guys. I don't think we're gonna see like a 12-8 sort of score line. I think it is gonna be high scoring to a degree, but I do think it's gonna be close enough. And yeah, like I said, 22-18. That's what I'm going with. As for the Wally Lewis winner, mate, I'm gonna go with Mitch Moses in this one. He obviously got game 2 player of the match up there at the MCG. He missed out on game 1. I do think Angus Crichton is potentially a sniff in this one if he has a big performance out there. But I'm going to go with Mitch Moses, and that's because I think if they're going to have any sort of chance out there at Suncorp, it's going to be off the back of his boot, and he's going to have to take this game by the reins in this one. So yeah, I'm going to hang my hat on Mitch Moses there.
Yeah, my one, I'm going to partner up my player of the match for this game with my Wally Lewis medal winner, because he has been consistent in the first 2 games without being the star of those games. And then I think he's going to have a big game in this one where it's going to be much more forward orientated for the first 30 minutes of the game as they try to establish a foothold in the middle against each other, both teams. So I think New South Wales is going to establish that foothold more, and it's going to be off the back of this guy who has been in every single game that I've seen him play pretty much, the absolute rock in the middle that makes meters and charges through defenses all the time. And that's Payne Haas. I've gone Payne Haas for the player of this match at $15, and he's actually less to win the Wally Lewis medal. So I don't know what that's about, but Payne Haas to win that, $11.
Nice, that's not bad odds there. And I agree with you 100%. I think if it wasn't for what Mitch Moses and Latrell Mitchell did in game 2, he was arguably player of the match there. It was just the eye-catching moments, the try assists, the tries scored, the flair that they had out there. But he's just been a workhorse in the middle with there as well. And I agree 100%. We've done it all series, 3-leg multi. You hit yours in game 2, mate. So I'll let you go first in this one. Gentleman's, I guess, etiquette there.
Well, for the first 2 games, I have been hammering the total points overs, which 24-18, I don't know if that quite gets there with the total point overs in this game. So I'm going to just try stay away from it because I am expecting a lot tighter of a contest. This one, I am going to go New South Wales 1-12. Brian To'o, anytime try scorer, I think they're just going to go down that left side again. Even without Latrell, I think he's still a dangerous proposition with Bradman Best out there to score a try. Selwyn Cobbo likes flying in off the wing as well, so I don't mind his chances. And then this guy just seems to score whenever he's around the ball, really. So I'm going to have to chuck Tabawai Fidau in there for anytime try scorer as well. Wrap that all up, $13 is my best bet.
Nice, tasty. I haven't got the odds here for my one. That's a little bit disappointing on my behalf, but I've got New South Wales to win. I'm not sure what that margin's going to be. I do think, like I said earlier, it's going to be a tight one. I wanted to look at potentially a line, but I'm just going to stay safe and go New South Wales to win. I'm going to go Zach Lomax. He's just been an incredible aerial threat, and I think they're going to test Val Holmes early in this one, either defensively or up in the air as well. And it's just one of those ones where pop it up and see what he does. He's been absolutely on fire out there. And I'm also going to go Val Holmes. I think that right to left sweeping play, we're going to see quite a lot of action from there. And he's a try-scoring threat out there, especially when you're outside the hammer as well. You're going to see a little bit of jamming coming in on him to potentially shut down his threat, and he might score. Juice it up as well if you want to get a bit of extra money on your odds there. I mean, 4 of the last game three Origin matches at Suncorp, the first try scorer, that's an incredible stat out there. That includes obviously the Origin chat from us. We're going to jump into quick picks and the Dally M early call. Who we're going to think is going to win the Dally M medal, but nonetheless, I can't wait for Origin, man. Like I said earlier, a Suncorp decider as well. It's absolutely unreal. As for the quick picks, though, round 20, I'm going to go Warriors to beat the Raiders, Bunnies to beat the Tigers, Broncos to beat the Knights. I think the Roosters, they will upset the Storms.
Mm.
The Panthers to beat the Finns, Manly to beat the Tigers, and I'm going to take the Dogs to continue their winning streak and beat the Cowboys.
Yeah, obviously early doors, so bear that in mind with some of these picks. But I've gone mostly the same with a few exceptions. I've gone Warriors to beat the Raiders, Rabbitohs to beat the Tigers, Broncos to beat the Knights. I have had the Storm to beat the Roosters just because it's at Amy Park. Obviously, we're not privy to the team list just yet, but that could definitely change because the Roosters have been a powerhouse. I've gone Panthers to beat the Dolphins. I've actually gone Titans to beat the Seagulls because they're just in great form. And I like the Des Hasler factor coming back to Four Pines Park.
True.
And then I'm with you with the Bulldogs. I think they've been one of the best defensive teams in the comp, and they should be able to get it done against the Cowboys to keep their streak rolling. So, yeah, those are my quick picks for next week.
All right, Dally M early call. So Dylan Edwards, he led the Dally M race before it went behind closed doors in round 12. Now, for me, I'm going to go Jerome Hughes. I think there's been hardly any Munster, there's been hardly any Puppy this season. The Storm, they lead the competition. He'll be picking up the most points each week for them throughout the team. But he's playing some unbelievable footy at the moment. The run home for them as well. They've got the Chooks, the Eels, the Dragons, the Bunnies, Panthers, Finns, Cowboys, and finish with the Broncos. They've got a fantastic record at home, like we know as well. But he's just been one of the, if not the informed halfback of the competition as well. I think he's a sniff for just Dally M halfback of the year. But I think the performance that he's been showing week in and week out, and when that went behind closed doors, he just went on an absolutely unreal run. And he's not gonna. He's got a few teammates there that aren't going to be stealing those points. So I think Jerome Hughes is a good sniff for Dally M winner.
Damn, I wish I could have a different take, but I was honestly circling Jerome Hughes as well because he's in a Storm team that currently lead the competition. And like you said, Munster has been out for long periods of time during this year. And the way he grabbed his groin in his last game, I don't feel like he'll be back anytime soon, old Cammy Munster. So this gives Jerome Hughes an opportunity to keep playing the way he's been playing. And he's been playing outstanding. Obviously, the Storm have won the most games out of any team in the competition. And every game that I've seen them win, he has been one of the best players on the field, if not the best player on the field every single time. So I see the Storm maintaining that top position, still winning games on the run home. I think maybe Panthers might be able to be competitive, especially if Cleary comes back in due time. But I'm going to stick with Jerome Hughes, who's got a head start on all the competition with the games he's been playing, and he will get Dally M in my eyes because he's been outstanding. And it's good to see a Kiwis boy like him playing so well in such a good position because also the Kiwis factor, he doesn't play Origin and stuff, so he still picks up points in those bye rounds. So Jerome Hughes, I think, is definitely a good pick for Dally M.
Yeah, I'll add one player that might be a good sniff as well. He was sitting in the fourth place position before it went behind closed doors. And like you said earlier, the factor of not playing State of Origin comes into it. He played game one of State of Origin, but he hasn't played it since, and that's James Tedesco. He's obviously got a lot of players in there in terms of Sammy Walker that's going to be picking up a lot of points there as well. But Joseph Manu hasn't been playing a lot of football. Angus Crichton's been playing fantastic, but he has also been playing State of Origin as well in those games. So James Tedesco might be a little sniff potentially to be up on that top realm and potentially make a good run home for it as well. But yeah, I agree with you 100%, man. Jerome Hughes, Kiwi boy, Dally M winner. SJ didn't get it last year. Hopefully a Kiwi boy gets up on top. Nonetheless, so that concludes another show. Enjoy your Origin football, man. It's always a great time of the year, and we can't wait to see New South Wales lift up that trophy, man. We'll see you guys all next week. Peace.
Up the Blues.